12 spine-chilling roommate tales, sinister secrets revealed that haunt my sleep for months. Sarah's life was supposed to be perfect. A quaint apartment with 2 fun roommates just outside of Chicago felt like a dream. But as the semester dragged on, laughter faded into eerie silence. It all started with strange noises at night, a soft scratching, then a faint whisper that sent shivers down her spine. She could barely sleep, every creak of the old building twisting her insides. It didn't help that Jess, once the life of the party, began to emerge from nights out drenched in perspiration, her laughter almost manic. "Where have you been?" Sarah would ask, but Jess only flashed a wild smile, her eyes distant, as if she were hiding a terrible truth. One evening, Sarah rummaged through the closet to stash her winter clothes. That's when she found an ancient journal, dust-covered and forgotten. As she cracked it open, each page told a chilling tale of a tenant who vanished without a trace. Betrayed by her friends, it read, she never left the apartment. Her heart raced. What if her own friends were hiding something? Then there was Tom. His obsession with horror films grew sinister. He quizzed Sarah about her fears, relishing her increasing discomfort. "People disappear from places like this all the time," he'd say, smiled too widely. It was supposed to be a joke, but it stuck in her throat like a bone. Something was wrong, and she could feel it deep inside her like ice creeping through her veins. Confrontations bubbled over, questions turned into accusations. "What are you hiding?" she demanded one night, her hands trembling. Jess had leaned close, laughter thick in the air, but it sounded hollow, cold. What started as playful banter twisted into a surreal standoff, illuminating shadows that danced grotesquely on the walls. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue, but each moment of hope dissolved as Jess's laughter rang even louder, echoing through the apartment corridors like a siren. Tom's eyes sparkled with something dark as he leaned closer. "You'd be surprised what lurks beneath the surface here," he whispered conspiratorially. Sarah felt compelled to run, but her feet felt heavy, paralyzed by fear. As shadows began to stretch and twist around her, Sarah's heart pounded like a drum. The walls seemed to breathe, trapping her with a secret she couldn't unearth alone. Just when she thought she could escape into the night, into safety, the flickering candlelight betrayed her, plunging the room into darkness. "What are you so afraid of?" Jess whispered, her voice sounding almost like a hiss. In that moment, Sarah realized she might not ever leave the nightmare she fell into. Would they sacrifice her, just like the tenant before? The laughter, once comforting, morphed into the ominous rustle of impending doom as she felt the grip of dread tighten around her throat. And then, silence. Just the sound of her own breath, gasping for survival. A final thought flickered through her mind: what was really hidden within those walls? Would she find the truth before it consumed her? The last echo of Jess's twisted laughter haunted her as darkness swallowed everything whole. What would happen next? The silence hung in the air, thick and tainted with fear. Sarah squeezed her eyes shut, trying to push back the tide of panic threatening to drown her. The absence of sound was almost worse than the cacophony of laughter and whispers that had filled the apartment moments before. She could feel the darkness creeping closer, wrapping around her like a suffocating shroud. Jess's voice cut through the stillness, thin and serpentine. "Did you think we wouldn't discover you? Did you really believe you could hide? Jess?" Sarah's voice trembled as she twisted to find her friend's silhouette, but the room remained shrouded in black. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb, Sarah," Tom chimed in, his tone dripping with malice. The chilling echo of his laughter rang out, laced with wicked delight. "We see everything. We know your fears, your secrets, your weaknesses. Her breath hitched in her throat. Sarah's heart raced. What did they know? What had she said or done to give her truth away? She had to escape. She had to get out of that room. With each passing moment, the shadows thickened, pulsating with an unnatural energy as if the very walls were alive. She fumbled for the bedside lamp, fingers trembling as she searched for the switch. The faint glow flickered on, pushing back the darkness just enough to reveal their sinister smiles, twisted and eager. Perhaps it's time for a little game, Jess suggested, her grin sharp as a knife. What do you think, Tom? Let us have some fun. Fun? Sarah squeaked, stepping back instinctively, her fingers still brushing against the cold surface of the lamp. Tom stepped closer, the flickering light reflecting off his eyes like a predator sizing up its prey. A game of truth, Sarah. What's your truth? Can you handle it? She inhaled sharply, trying to assess the situation. The oppressive weight of dread intensified, making it difficult to breathe. This was no game. This was a trap designed to unearth her deepest fears, a sick experiment in psychological torment. What do you want from me? She managed to croak out, her voice barely a whisper against the mocking laughter that bounced off the walls. Just a little honesty, Jess replied, her tone deceptively sweet. Tell us your secret, and maybe we'll let you leave. A chill swept through Sarah. The truth was buried deep within her, a massive weight that had haunted her for years. She kept it locked away, hidden from even herself, but now it threatened to spill forth under their twisted encouragement. The air around her crackled with palpable tension, and she knew if she allowed her truth to escape, if she dared to voice it, there would be no turning back. Would it open the door to her liberation or seal her fate forever? 5 seconds, Tom warned, counting down with a sly smirk. 5, 4. Panic surged as Sarah scoured her mind for escape routes, weighing her options against the looming shadows of her roommates, who became more monstrous with every passing moment. 3, 2. What was worse? Being trapped in her own mind or letting them find out what she was hiding? 1. With a wild desperation, she shouted, I won't tell you anything. The silence that followed was deafening. For a fleeting moment, her world stood still. But then the air shifted. Game on, Sarah, Jess whispered as the room plunged back into darkness, and the true horror began. Could she survive the haunting games of her friends? Would the dark secrets of the apartment finally surface, taking her along for the ride? In that chilling void, she braced herself for a tug-of-war against the past, knowing that the answer might hold the key to her very survival. The darkness enveloped her entirely, swallowing any light that had briefly fought back. Sarah's heart thundered in her chest, loud and erratic, a wild thing desperately searching for an escape. She stumbled backward, her hands reaching blindly, scraping against the rough wall, as panic spilled over, frazzling her thoughts into fragments of despair. Jess's voice slithered through the suffocating blackness, echoing around the corners of the room like a cruel whisper. Where are you going? I can't see. Sarah gasped, a lump forming in her throat as her fingertips traced along the jagged edges of the wall, her breath a shallow gasp. Of course you can't, Tom's voice mocked. We've turned off all the lights, remember? This is your game, sweet Sarah. Just you and your secrets. The air felt charged, as if something unseen hovered on the edge, waiting to strike. She pressed herself against the wall, feeling its coldness seep through her skin, grounding her in the moment. But she couldn't shake the feeling that the walls were closing in. Every second stretched painfully as the darkness tightened its hold like an unwelcome embrace. Stop. Please just stop. She shouted, her voice cracking, the plea shredding through the emptiness. She had to regain control. There had to be a way to escape this nightmare. Oh, but we're just getting started. Jess chimed, a sinister giggle echoing into the void. Let us find out how deep those secrets really go. Sarah's mind raced. She had rehearsed lies countless times in her head, but this was the moment where honesty could tear everything apart, where truth and terror lay tangled together. What if they dug into the darkest parts of her? 15 seconds, Jess announced, counting down, her tone sing-song as if they were playing a round of duck, duck, goose. 15-14 Get away from me. Sarah cried, panic flooding her voice. She swept her arms wildly, searching for any sign of them in the pitch-black void. 13-12 You think you can hide? Tom hissed, the menace in his voice dripping with satisfaction. Her fingers trembled as they brushed against something unexpected, a door handle. Relief surged through her, yet before she could grasp it, she heard Jess drawing nearer, her breath heavy with anticipation. 11:10 Heart racing, Sarah flung open the door and sprinted into a hallway that seemed endless. The faint glow of embers flickered far ahead, promising the brightness that might keep the shadows at bay. She could hear their laughter, a haunting melody trailing behind her, a dark echo that sent shivers crawling down her spine. As she dashed forward, she thought she was free until the floor shifted beneath her feet, and she slipped, hitting the ground hard. The thud reverberated. Adrenaline pumped through her veins as she scrambled up again, breathless. But her heart sank when she gazed at her surroundings. Instead of the warmth of the living room she had expected, she found herself in the basement, cold and dank, the smell of mildew assaulting her senses. Sarah, you're not getting away that easily, Jess's voice coiled around her, sultry and sinister. The real game is just beginning. And then silence fell again. No laughter, no taunts. Just her echoing breaths merging into the oppressive stillness. The darkness seemed to pulse, alive with dread. Her pulse quickened, and she felt trapped, stewing in memories that clawed at the edges of her mind. What would they do to her down here? Would they expose her truths for all to see? Desperate thoughts whirled in her head, a cyclone of fear and uncertainty. She had to remember she had to fight back before their twisted game consumed her. But the darkness thickened, suffocating, as a ruthless whisper sliced through her thoughts. Can you face your fears, Sarah? With her heart racing, she realized this wasn't just a game of discovery, it was a battle for her very soul. What awaited her in the obscured depths of the basement? Could the shadows hold answers or only more terror? A cold sweat clung to Sarah's skin, her mind racing while the silence slithered around her like a snake, tight and suffocating. She glanced around the basement, searching for a point of light, but all was shrouded in shadows. Her heartbeat thudded in her ears, a relentless drum urging her toward a futile escape. Sarah, we can see you, Tom's voice oozed from the darkness, smooth and chilling. Sarah's breath hitched. She pressed her back tighter against the damp wall, the texture rough against her skin. Her instinct screamed for her to run, but where? The basement stretched like a black abyss, each corner hiding unimaginable horrors. Suddenly, a creaking sound echoed around her, a harsh contrast to the silence that had fallen moments before. She turned toward the source, her heart pounding louder than ever. The sound grew closer, a rhythmic scrape like nails against a chalkboard. She held her breath, letting the sound wash over her, paralyzed with dread. Come out, Sarah, Jess taunted, the sing-song lilt of her voice mocking any faint glimmer of hope. We're just playing, after all, isn't that what friends are for? Flickers of movement pulled her gaze to her left, where shadows shifted, darting like phantoms. Was it just her imagination, or were they toying with her? Stop it! She shouted, panic rising in her throat. You're not funny. Instead of laughter, a low growling noise echoed off the walls, vibrating through her bones, and she shivered. They were not playing anymore, something darker was at stake. She turned to the stairs, her mind racing. But as she took a step, she felt the floor shift again, a subtle tremor that sent her stomach lurching. The ground beneath her felt unstable, alive. A whisper slithered through the air, chilling her to the core. Do you really have secrets worth hiding, Sarah? A fresh wave of terror washed over her. Memories began flooding her mind, moments she had locked away, fears she had buried deep. She couldn't let them take that away from her. "Look at me, Sarah," Jess demanded, her tone sharp. "You can't ignore us down here. We're right in front of you." Adrenaline surged, and Sarah kicked into motion. She bolted toward the unknown, her feet pounding against the cold concrete, her breath ragged. The darkness clawed at her, a hungry beast reaching out to drag her back. As she sprinted, her fingers danced over the walls, desperate to grasp something, anything, to tether her world. Each step reverberated with her heartbeat, a frantic rhythm of survival. But instinct pulled her to a door, slightly ajar at the far end of the basement. The flickering light of dying embers seeped through, taunting her. With a burst of courage, she dashed toward it, the wood creaking ominously as she pushed against it. Just as she reached for the handle, a figure appeared behind her, blocking her escape. Jess, her face twisted into a grotesque grin, eyes glinting with malice. "You thought you could run? Sweet Sarah, the game only gets better from here." Panic shot through Sarah, and she spun back. The path she came had vanished, swallowed by shadows before her eyes. Walls tightened around her, and despair threatened to crush her. "Ready to face your fears?" Tom's whisper seeped into her mind like poison. "You've always buried them. But the darkness has a way of revealing things." Sarah's breath quickened, and her pulse raced wildly. She glanced back at Jess, the grin widening as if she had just won a prize. The sinister joy filled the air, heavy and palpable. Desperately, Sarah searched for another way out. What lay behind her? Would the darkness devour her? Would revealing her secret set her free, or doom her forever? As the shadows crept closer, Sarah braced herself for whatever came next, heart pounding in sync with the dark vibration surrounding her, and then the basement trembled once more, a low rumble that sent icy fingers crawling up her spine. What had awakened in the darkness? Would they let her escape, or was this only the beginning of her nightmare? Sarah's breath choked in her throat. Jess stood before her, blocking everything: hope, light, even the essence of freedom. The basement felt smaller, pressing against her. The oppressive darkness whispered secrets, each hiss invading her mind, amplifying her fears. "Don't you want to know what we see?" Tom's taunt slithered like smoke through the space, curling around her psyche. "You're the star of the show now." In that moment, adrenaline surged through her, fueling her limbs. She had no time for fear, she needed to act. Sarah twisted to the side, trying to slip past Jess. With a cold laugh, Jess grabbed her wrist, nails digging into her skin like icy claws. "Not so fast. You can't escape so easily, honey." Sarah twisted violently, freeing herself just enough to dart away, her pulse thrumming in her ears. As she careened into the deep shadows, her surroundings morphed into a labyrinth of panic. Cold air gusted around her like a howling wind. She knew Jess and Tom were close, hunting her like prey, and she was utterly alone. Walls closed in as she shoved past, her fingers blindly seeking an exit. She stumbled into old furniture, the scratching of wood on concrete echoing in the stillness. A familiar weight settled in her gut, a sensation she recognized too well. Each beat of the darkness whispered memories from another life, voices from the past that shredded her stability. "Sarah, it's just a game," Jess's voice danced nearby, deceptively sweet. "And you're losing." Feeling woozy, Sarah pushed through the remnants of her past. Old boxes, forgotten remnants of her life, framed memories that now turned grotesque. Tattered photographs showed laughter she no longer felt, glances now edged with dread. The realization struck her like ice water: every secret buried, every moment denied, was clawing its way back to the surface. "Leave me alone!" She screamed, but the words slipped away into the void. Suddenly, the air thickened, full of dread. A damp, rancid odor reached her, making her stomach churn. The shadows thickened, pulsating like a living thing, each flicker concealing unknown horrors. For the first time, fear morphed into something else: a resolve. She would not be their pawn. Not now. Not ever. A flickering light from a corner broke through the oppressive darkness, an old flashlight, its beam wavering like her courage. Hope surged, and she lunged for it. She gripped the handle, shaking it. The light flashed bright, illuminating the remnants of her haunted past. "Sarah, don't shine that." Tom's voice hissed, dripping with venom, but she could see them now, shadows with twisted forms, puppets emerging from the dark. Their eyes glowed, reflecting the beam like ravenous wolves, sharp teeth glinting with malevolence. "Why don't you let us in?" Jess taunted, stepping closer, her face twisted in a mocking smile. "We already know everything about you." With a surge of reckless courage, Sarah switched the flashlight to full beam, forcing the darkness to scurry back. She couldn't run forever, secrets had a way of being dragged into the light. She needed to confront them. This was her chance. But just as resolve ignited within her, a hand shot out from behind the darkness, grabbing her shoulder. Sarah whirled, eyes wide, bodied with instinctual fear. "Are you really ready to face the truth?" whispered a voice that sent ice shivers down her spine. For a fleeting moment, she felt the weight of that question. Would the truth save her, or was it a knife edged with betrayal? What lay beyond the flickering beam? Could she find courage in the darkest parts of herself before it swallowed her whole? With a heart steeled against the chilling facade of her friends, Sarah stepped deeper into the flickering shadows, ready to uncover the sinister secrets lurking in the corners and confront the horrors of her own making. Would she emerge with the truth, or falter into madness? Cold sweat dripped down Sarah's back as she stood frozen in place, the flashlight trembling in her grip. Shadows danced around her, a dark ballet of fear and malice, pulling at the corners of her sanity. The voice that had whispered her name felt all too familiar, and she couldn't shake the feeling that the real monster lurked just behind her. "Who are you?" she croaked, trying to mask the quiver in her voice. The warmth of defiance flickered faintly within her. From the darkness, a figure stepped forward. It was a person she recognized, yet the familiarity haunted her. Mia, their childhood friend. But the eyes that stared back were hollow, void of any warmth that once defined her. "You really don't know, do you?" Mia's voice dripped with mockery, as if every word was a dagger. "You always ran away. You thought you could bury it all, but now it's back just like you." "No. This isn't happening." Panic surged through Sarah. She had hidden her past, suffocated it until it ceased to exist. But Mia's laugh echoed through the basement, splintering her composure. "You want freedom?" Jess chimed in, her face now a mask of cruelty and mockery. "You have to face the darkness first." "Isn't that what you always said?" Clenching her fists, Sarah turned the beam of the flashlight towards Jess and Tom. They were only silhouettes now, distorted by the dim light, but they loomed larger, more menacing than any part of her past. Memories she tried to suppress bubbled up, each image sharper than the last screams from parties turned into nightmares, whispers of secrets buried so deep they could never be unearthed. "What do you want from me?" she gasped, feeling her chest tighten as the air grew heavier. Tom stepped forward, eyes gleaming like shards of glass. "We want to remind you, Sarah. Remember what you did? The lives you ruined?" With each word, Sarah felt the weight of blame settle on her shoulders. She had run a coward hiding from an unforgiving world. But somewhere inside her, anger began to rise. "I'm not afraid of you," she shouted, her voice breaking into the stillness. Suddenly, the flashlight flickered, the beam sputtering, casting long shadows that swirled around her like specters. Frantically, she shook it. "Stay away from me." Mia's laugh grew louder, echoing through the cramped space. "You think a little light will save you? We live in the dark, Sarah. And now, so do you. You'll never escape the truth." The shadows twisted, enveloping her. Somewhere in the chaos, hope flickered and died. Was confronting these specters of her past truly an act of bravery, or was it merely a cruel trick of her own mind? She could feel them closing in, a chilling presence that mocked her every heartbeat. The walls seemed to breathe around her, forcing her to confront the very essence of her fears, secrets laid bare as grotesque marionettes, performing for their twisted audience. Just as despair wrapped its cold fingers around her throat, the flashlight flickered back to life, searing light burning through the darkness. It shattered the illusion they couldn't hold her if she didn't let them. But how, when her past clawed at her heart? "Look inside of you," Sarah Tom murmured, ghostly fingers stretching from the shadows, promising salvation amid her haunting. "Face what you've buried." With every ounce of determination, she raised the flashlight high. Light cascaded over the walls, revealing remnants of terror she thought she could outrun. Each whispered memory screamed louder, drawing her deeper into the pit of dread. What was she truly afraid of, the ghosts of her past or the truth she had left behind? As the light flickered once more, Sarah felt her breath quicken. The way out remained hidden in the chaos, and escape blended with the haunting reality of her choices. Could she face the truth before it consumed her whole? In that moment, she realized the ultimate confrontation awaited her. The darkness trembled, waiting for an answer that could lead either to freedom or destruction. And the walls breathed, echoing her fear, "Are you ready to remember?" Light poured from the flashlight like liquid hope, illuminating the grotesque figures that twisted in the dark with shadows of their former selves. But Sarah's heart raced, and she fought against the pulsing fear wrapping around her throat. Each flicker of the light felt like a countdown, an urgent call to action. "What do you want from me?" The words poured out like a desperate prayer, shaking her to her core. "Your truth," Mia hissed, stepping closer, her presence both chilling and familiar, as if pulling from an old memory of friendship warped into something grotesque. "Your truth is our truth, Sarah. And it's time you remembered. Time you faced the monster you helped create." "No!" Sarah shouted, voice breaking. The memories came crashing in: wild parties, reckless decisions, whispers of betrayal. They extended endlessly in front of her, a kaleidoscope of broken friendships and echoes of laughter turned to sobs. "Freedom lies in facing it." Jess pressed further, her eyes glinting like black marbles. "You can't escape what you've done. You left us, you left yourself too." A sudden rush coursed through Sarah. Who were they to judge her? She'd made mistakes, huge ones, but they were her past, her buried secrets. She lifted the flashlight higher, its beam stretching toward the corners of the basement, desperate to banish the remnants of the past. "Face the darkness." Tom's whisper lingered like a poison. "You can't reflect it unless you confront it." Tremors ran down Sarah's spine. Her knees weakened, as if the floor itself was conspiring to trap her in this nightmare. But fleeing was no longer an option. Clenching her jaw, she steadied the light, breath hitching in her throat. "I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of what I did." The shadows recoiled as if struck. For a brief moment, a sliver of satisfaction coursed through her, igniting a flicker of defiance. But then, the darkness surged back with a roar, each figure morphing, growing. Their faces twisted in mockery and pain, each one a representation of all she wished to forget. Mia suddenly lunged forward, a laugh mixed with despair. "You think this light changes anything? You're still that girl who abandoned us." The words dug deep, cutting through the veil of her courage, pricking at the tender spots of her guilt. "I didn't abandon anyone," she cried, but even as she protested, self-doubt seeped into her thoughts like poison on an open wound. The walls of the basement began to close in. The air thickened, embedding the stench of mildew mixed with something sweetly intoxicating yet rotten. They were invading her mind, twisting her memories into terrifying distortions, reminding her of every person she'd hurt, every moment she wished she could take back. "Look inside," Sarah Tom whispered again, now merging with the rest as if a single entity, all voices swirling together like a tempest. "Face her, face yourself." Heart pounding, Sarah forced herself to look away from their accusing faces. She realized she was standing on the precipice, ready to either plunge into the abyss of remembrance or climb back up into the light. Enough! She shouted, the word a bullet through the air. I want to let you win. With one final surge of will, she twisted the flashlight's beam into her heart, illuminating the darkest corners of her soul. The shadows shrank back, hissing, revealing a path she hadn't noticed before, one leading deeper into the basement and deeper into herself. Are you ready to remember? Came the echo, taunting yet sincere. A heartbeat settled in the quiet that followed, then a shriek shattered the stillness. Sarah turned, breath hitching as the ground trembled beneath her. Something moved in the shadows, a figure cloaked in darkness. It wasn't her memories anymore. This was something else, something far more sinister. What awaited her in that undulating darkness? The pull of unseen horrors beckoned. She took a step toward the figure, every fiber of her being screaming for escape. But the only escape lay buried beneath what she had hidden. Could she truly confront what was waiting? Or would this journey lead her deeper into the heart of madness? The figure in the shadows lurched forward, its vague shape twisting with an unsettling fluidity. Sarah's heart thundered, erratic and wild, as fear gripped her like an iron vice. She wanted to run, to flee from the weight of that darkness pressing against her chest, but her feet were rooted to the ground, the flashlight flickering weakly in her trembling hands. Sarah, a voice purred from the depths of darkness, smooth yet sharp like broken glass. It was a voice she didn't recognize and yet felt intimately connected to, a sinister reflection of herself that she couldn't quite grasp. You've forgotten us. Forgotten what you did know. She gasped, shaking her head violently, fighting against the rising tide of panic. I've done nothing wrong. I'm not that person anymore. But the shadows laughed, a cacophony of twisted laughter resonating through the basement. They danced around her, circling tighter with each passing moment. The flashlight sputtered again, casting grotesque images on the walls, faces contorted in anguish, blurred memories of three lost friends melding into a single horrific entity. Each one screamed silently, reminding her of the nights spent in reckless abandon, the choices made in darkness that had led to their end. The thought pulled at her, threatening to unravel her feeble sense of self. Let us remind you, the figure said, now taking a step closer, its features clearer. It was a jumbled reflection of Mia, Jess, and Tom, but not quite. Their faces protruded from the shadows, shifting, an unnatural mimicry that thrummed with raw energy. They were no longer friends but a nightmare made flesh, embodying every moment of betrayal. Turn back, another whisper reached her, softer yet more forceful. Don't venture deeper into this blackness, Sarah. You want to like what you find. Enough. She yelled again, voice echoing off the dank walls. Fear was mingling with desperation, and she had no idea how much time she had left before that feeling consumed her entirely. I will not go back. The shadows recoiled momentarily, a slight retreat that kindled a tinge of hope inside her. But the flicker of hope was smothered as the darkness surged forward once more, pulling her closer like a riptide. Then face the truth. A chorus chanted from the depths, their voices layered, haunting. Face the girl you abandoned. Relentlessly, the shadows dug into her mind, drawing forth memories she buried under layers of denial. Faces of strangers mixed with those she once cherished, emotions swirling, guilt, rage, sorrow. Each one clawing at her heart, reminding her that darkness was not merely outside, it was stitched into the very fabric of her being. As she stumbled backwards, adrenaline fueled her resolve. She flipped the flashlight towards a corner, illuminating a dark doorway she hadn't seen before, half hidden in the shadows. Its edges were frayed and warped, as if the shadows themselves had been torn apart to create this new passage. What is that? She dared to ask, taking a step forward. What lies within? Your essence, the twisted figures hissed, their voices slithering around her like a bad omen. The home of your nightmares, the key to your liberation. Sarah shivered, internal war waging on as she weighed her choices. Could she bear the weight of her past, the truth hidden beneath layers of guilt and grief? Or would this decision seal her fate, forever lost to the darkness that threatened to swallow her whole. The ground shook, the walls pulsating as if the basement were alive. Shadows writhed, seeking to reclaim what was lost. The flashlight flickered once more, threatening to die. But somewhere in the depths of that dark doorway, she felt something calling, a piercing urgency that could not be ignored. Drawing in a shaky breath, she steadied herself. The time for excuses had passed. With heart pounding, she stepped toward the door, ready to unveil the truth, whatever horrors awaited her there. Little did she know, what lay beyond might drown her in memories she couldn't escape, or offer her the salvation she desperately sought. What would she truly release when she stepped through? The door creaked as Sarah pushed it open, a groan that echoed down a tunnel of darkness. It felt alive, like a predator yawning to swallow her whole. A cold draft whipped around her, sending shivers spiraling down her spine. She hesitated, the shadows clawing at her, but the insistent pull of the darkness urged her forward. With a flick of her dying flashlight, she caught glimpses inside. The walls of the narrow corridor were lined with mirrors, their surfaces warped and dusty, reflecting fractured images of her own face, eyes wide, mouth silently screaming. She stumbled deeper, the air thick with the scent of mildew and fear, each breath crashing against her lungs. "Welcome home, Sarah," the chorus of voices whispered, now layered with more familiarity, as if they were echoing from within her own mind. "Don't turn back. There's so much more to discover." She fought against their insistence, pressing her back against the frigid wall as terror curled around her heart. Memories erupted, relentless flashes of laughter mixed with screams. She saw Mia's carefree smile, Jess's spontaneous laughter, and Tom's fierce loyalty, all overshadowed by the chilling conclusion of their last night together. Deeper into the shadows she ventured, rife with uncertainty. Each mirror she passed oozed memories she wished to forget. Some showed her past self, happy and careless, while others portrayed moments soaked in regret, sadness etched into her very being. "You can't escape," a voice taunted, slithering through the air like smoke. "You did this. You left us all shut up," Sarah shouted, her own voice rebounding off the walls, but the silence only answered her with chilling indifference. Each step felt like she was wading through thick molasses, the air growing heavier, the shadows closing in tighter. A shiver ran through her again, as if the basement were breathing in sync with her growing dread. Then came a blinding light ahead, flickering like a dying star. It drew her in, an anomaly in the overwhelming darkness. As she approached, Sarah's heart raced with the hope that maybe this was the salvation she sought. But as she neared, the light revealed a terrible truth, a mirror larger than the rest, its glass surface shimmering like water reflecting her worst fears. Inside that mirror, she was not alone. The twisted reflections of her friends swirled, contorted in eternal agony. Their faces, tormented, mouths wide in an endless scream. "Sarah, you did this!" They shouted in unison, voices merging with the hiss of the shadows. It felt as if each accusation struck her like a nail in an already splintered heart. "No!" she cried, clutching her temples, trying to break away from their hypnotic gaze. But the shadows wouldn't allow her escape. They wrapped around her limbs, pulling her closer to her own reflection. Here, she had to confront them and herself. Each question they posed was a dagger in her consciousness. What did you choose that night? The memories flooded back, raw and painful, her decisions dragging behind her like chains. Panic swelled in her chest, choking her, but she refused to give in. "I'll prove I'm different," she yelled, determination sparking within her. The shadows reacted, recoiling, groaning with a terrible hunger. They smelled her fear, felt her resolve. But as she tore her gaze away from the mirror, she felt it, a flickering flame of defiance fighting against the suffocating darkness. "Then face what you've unleashed," they screeched, voices rising to a terrifying crescendo, filling the air with an unspeakable dread. Just then, the mirror cracked, a chaotic snarl erupting as the reflection warped, dark tendrils reaching out, grasping for her soul. It felt like it was alive, an entity hungry for her surrender. Fear gripped her anew, all resolve dissipating in the face of such monstrous rage. In that moment, Sarah understood. The choices made that night would not remain buried. They would return, not just to haunt her, but to overpower her. Heart pounding, she glanced back toward the passage she came from, weighing her odds. Was there still a way out, or was she spiraling deeper into her own hell? Suddenly, the shadows whispered one last taunt. Last chance, Sarah. Embrace the darkness, or flee to face the truth of who you really are. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. What path lay before her now? Would she confront her demons or let the shadows engulf her entirely? With hesitation lingering like a knife at her back, she stood at the precipice of her own past, facing the ominous question, what would be the final price of the truth? With the cracks spreading across the surface of the mirror like veins of lightning, Sarah felt the atmosphere shifting, cocooning her in an icy grip. Every ounce of fear surged through her, freezing her in disbelief. The choices she made, the friends she lost, everything came crashing down like a tidal wave. The dark aura pulsed, thickening around her, urging her toward a reckoning she was terrified to face. A cacophony of whispers filled her ears, her friends' voices twisted into accusations, memories spiraling beyond her control. You forgot us. You abandoned us. Each word struck her with painful precision, echoing the remorse she had long buried. No, please, just let me go. She pleaded, her breath hitching as the shadows loomed menacingly, pressing against her mind, but this time was different. With every heartbeat that tore through the silence, she found a flicker of strength within the depths of her despair. The darkness was powerful, but she was still here. You don't own me. She shouted, and her voice rippled through the air like a shot, surprising even herself. The shadows halted, recoiling momentarily at her defiance. With her heart racing, Sarah gripped the flashlight like a beacon of hope, directing its light toward the reflection that bore her friends' faces. She had to confront the truths she feared most. I'm sorry. She shouted, words tumbling free from her lips like an unexpected rush. I failed you. I was scared, and I made choices that hurt us all. But I have to face this. I have to face you. The mirror trembled in response, quivering like a living entity grappling with immense pressure. Your truth is part of you, the pain, the fear, the regret. Embrace it. The shadows urged, their voices intertwining as if they were harmonizing in a haunting melody. Gritting her teeth, she focused on the reflection screaming back at her, each twisted face a harbinger of her buried guilt. Tears stung her eyes, blurring her view of the specters she once cherished. You were my family. She cried, remembering joy mingled with loss. I was wrong. I thought I could run from my mistakes, from what I did to you. But I can't anymore. I'm here. I want to remember. I want to make things right. The mirror absorbed her declaration, shimmering violently as if recognizing her courage. It shifted, reassembling into clearer images, their laughter, the late-night cries for help, the heart-wrenching moments they shared. And then it revealed the night of the accident, unguarded joy spiraling into chaos. Her heart clenched. She couldn't avert her gaze. Not this time. She watched as the intoxicated blur of moments turned sharper, revealing her own choices, her reckless abandon, her neglect in their darkest hour. No! A scream erupted from her throat, a raw sound consumed by horror. But she didn't close her eyes, staring dead-on at the ghost of her past, realizing that every secret, every shadow had bred from her own fear. This is who I was. But I don't want to be this person anymore. With an ember of courage glowing fiercely, Sarah took a step forward, shattering the layer of terror and command that had thrummed around her for too long. No more hiding. No more illusions. The energy around her ignited, flickering with relentless strength. The shadows recoiled, screeching under the brightness of her renewed will as the mirror shattered, shattering more than glass, breaking the hold it had on her soul. The pieces sparkled like stars, reflecting her obliterated fears in 1,000 directions. In the aftermath, the room felt lighter. Shadows dissipated, giving way to light spilling in from the dark doorway behind her. It wasn't just the light of the flashlight that was something far deeper. It was the light of acceptance, of sorrow and healing, coiling around her and replacing the remnants of her guilt. "Sarah," a voice emerged from the light. It was soft, like a balm to her aching heart. It was Jess, her face renewed, void of the taint of darkness. "You did it. You faced it." A warm relief washed over her as she stepped toward the familiar voice. "I'm sorry." The words felt like a release, liberating fragments of her past that she thought could never find peace. Her friends stepped forward too, their faces unmarred by shadows, love radiant despite the hurt. "It's okay," Tom said, his eyes softening. "We're still here. You're still here." And as the light enveloped her, illuminating all the ghosts of heartache and longing, she felt the grip of the basement fade. Sarah realized the power of truth wasn't just in remembering, it was in the strength to embrace who she had been while stepping forward into who she could become. In that moment, she understood that every bond forged in love and joy could withstand the shadows if reflected upon with redemption and hope. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the weight of shadows lift, replaced instead with resilient determination. It would not be an easy journey back to her friends, but it would be real. And every step she took would lead her home, closer to connecting with the souls she thought she'd lost forever. As the light pushed away the darkness, liberating her from the basement, Sarah knew without a doubt that freeing herself from the past was just the beginning. She was ready. Ready to face her future with open eyes and a heart wide enough to embrace every echo of love, loss, and friendship without fear, and in the warm, soft glow of that moment, the shadows transformed no longer sinister, but distant memories that lived in harmony with her truth. Now lay the real adventure ahead, a chance for healing and a bond forged anew. So, if you've journeyed with Sarah, if you've felt the tug of her story, this is your moment, too. Don't miss out. Subscribe immediately. You need to be part of our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to boost us and feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. Your thoughts matter. And share, right now with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. Together, let us shine a light on what truly matters. Don't wait even one more second.